between Culp's Hill and Benner's Hill, and right to my background is Rock Creek. Rock Creek was certainly higher during the period. Some soldiers say it was almost waist deep in areas, and that was because of McAllister's Mill Pond and the dam about several hundred yards downstream from me. But the area that we're at today is important because it's going to be a contested area over which skirmishers fought in the late afternoon of July the 2nd, and this is all in preparatory movement before the general assault that I'm about to talk about on Culp's Hill. And so what we're interested in today is one specific unit, and in that specific unit, a pair of brothers, John and Charlie Futch. John and Charlie Futch were members of the 3rd North Carolina. The 3rd North Carolina was part of Stewart's brigade. Stewart's brigade was in Allegheny Johnston's Division, part, of course, of Richard S. Ewell's Corps. And we're going to follow their movements on the late evening of July the 2nd at our next stop. But before doing so, I want to give some broader context as to what exactly was happening on the 1st and the 2nd. Now, Johnston's division is not going to be engaged on July the 1st. Instead, they're going to come through town late afternoon, early evening. They're in fact going to see parts of the first day's battlefield. They're going to witness perhaps the area that was so contested near the unfinished railroad cut. They're eventually going to start making their way out of town on the Hanover Road, where we just filmed earlier, and then they're going to be deployed eventually on the other side, the reverse slope of Benner's Hill. And then on the morning of July the 2nd, the men are going to wait. And it's something about which they talk in great detail in the post-war period. They themselves, of course, don't realize what was going on the other end of the Confederate line, some of the confusion that eventually results in Longstreet's famous countermarch, and why the assaults don't kick off until the afternoon. So these men are going to wait, and they're going to spend their time on the reverse slope of Benner's Hill until eventually a serious artillery engagement is going to ensue around 3 p.m. And we have a lot of accounts of this artillery exchange between the area of Benner's Hill and Cemetery Hill. Even some guns are going to be engaged from Culp's Hill, and it was a horrific fire. The Confederate guns are going to be commanded by Joseph Latimer, Little Latimer, the young Napoleon, as you'll refer to him as. He was a bit of a prodigy, only but a teenager here at Gettysburg. And though Benner's Hill is not an ideal position for his artillery, it's the position that he's given, and it's where the artillery exchange is going to occur, again, in the late afternoon of July the 2nd. And all of this is ideally going to weaken those Union defenses before ultimately Johnston's division is going to make their assault against Culp's Hill. Now, as Dana said earlier, Johnston's division is going to be minus one brigade, the old Stonewall Brigade under the command of Walker. And of course, Dana gave us a great insight into why those men are deployed as they are and how that could possibly be affecting what unfolds here in the evening of July the 2nd. And so what we're going to do from this segment to the next one is start to engage the experiences of John and Charlie Futch of the 3rd North Carolina. So Johnston's division is going to kick off somewhere around 7 p.m., so quite late. They're going to move across an area that's largely in private hands today, which is directly to my east. It's an area roughly between the Hanover Road and Wolf's Hill, which is, again, not visible today because of the foliage, but off in the distance. A front of several thousand feet. They're going to make their way across this area, pushing back the last remnants of a Union skirmish line. They're going to wade across Rock Creek, and they're going to start moving into an area that today is engulfed in a lot of foliage, a lot of underbrush. Historically, the woods, while certainly dense, are not like we see today. And so it's going to be a bit confusing as we move into the area of Culp's Hill, trying to kind of understand the landscape. But these men, if you think about it, they themselves were confused. This is occurring by the time they're in this area around 7:30, almost 8 p.m. The air is engulfed in smoke. There's a great deal of confusion. Twilight has set on, and the woods themselves are adding to that uncertainty and confusion. This is rocky, craggy terrain, extremely difficult to navigate. And so what we're going to do in this next segment then is we're going to follow the 3rd North Carolina, John and Charlie Futch, through the area between the lower slope of Culp's Hill and the upper slope of Culp's Hill. So we're going to take a quick break to move to the next area, and from there we'll talk a bit about the action that unfolds. Thank you.